Hello, my name is Chris from Workshop Guitars, and I wanted to make a video to show my fretboard radiusing sander that I got from Grizzly. I've seen a few videos out there. The Texas Toast guys have some great videos out there on their machines, and I just kind of wanted to show you how I use mine and the modifications I did to make it work. As if you're looking into this machine and you're looking at other videos, first of all, I recommend the Texas Toast guys. They did a really great job, one, filming and documenting the things that they did to their machine, but they also did some really cool modifications to theirs. And prior to that, I didn't see a whole lot, and so I bought this because I needed a way to radius my fretboards. I was just getting into guitar making. I wasn't super experienced, and I was looking at different methods. One of the things I knew when I was getting started is I wanted to make my own fretboards. I didn't want to rely on just pre-made fretboards. If you're just getting into it, when you're looking at pre-made fretboards, you're very limited in what's out there, right? And when you can make your own, the sky's kind of the limit. So I needed a way to put a radius on the top of the fretboards, and there's a few different solutions out there. One solution that you may see is they have little router sleds that you put your router on, and you put a radius insert in there, and it tilts it back and forth, and you go back and forth like that until you go the whole length. That's one option. The other option is to just get a radius sanding block, and just sit there and go at it. And the problem with that is that, that's exhausting, and it takes a long time because you're essentially sanding a whole shape onto a piece of wood. So then I found this. This is from Grizzly. This is the radius sanding attachment, and I thought the idea was cool and novel. And I eventually tried it out. And what I learned when I got it is that there are a few things that, in my opinion, Grizzly missed the bar on. And there's some things that they did really well. Before I get started, I should say that I am not sponsored by Grizzly, and am, other than being a fan, am no way affiliated with them. So, that said, this machine, the overview of it is simple. You've got a belt sander, and then you've got this carriage, and this kind of swinging pendulum arm that swings like this. The idea is that you tape or somehow attach your fretboard to the bottom of this carriage. As the sander goes, you set your radius based on the height of this bolt to the bottom of your fretboard, and that is basically how it works. All right? So there's a couple things. The radius of your fretboard is determined on the distance between the fulcrum pendulum point here and the bottom of your fretboard. So right now I have this set up at 9.5 inch fretboard, which is pretty common with some fenders. And so if you look at it, from the bottom of where the fretboard sits to that is right at 9.5 inches. Okay. So there's a couple modifications that I've done that we're going to take a look at. For one, this machine comes out of the box capable of doing 10 to 16 inch radiuses. Now in my manual that I have, it says 8 to 16, but the website says 10 to 16, and when you look at this, it is definitely 10 to 16. So I'm not quite sure where the manual got the number 8 from, but it is not out of the box ready to do that. However, the design of this is simple enough that a little ingenuity, and then help from friends at Texas Toast and other places that you've seen, this is definitely doable. So we're going to take a look at this right now. So when you get this machine right off the bat, you've got this swinging carriage, and the way it works is your fretboard gets attached to the bottom of this, and as the sander rolls, this pendulum swings back and forth, and that puts that radius on there. And you determine the radius based on the distance between the center of this swing arm and the bottom of your fretboard. So if you can see, this did not come with this board. I added this board. So it's got about 1.5 inches of this board that you attach your fretboard to. And what I found is that when I was taping my fretboard to just the metal bar, it overhung, a little bit on each side. And what would happen was, as it kind of would first hit the edge of the sandpaper, it would very gently unpeel a little bit the tape, and it would change that shape slightly. And I was having a hard time, I'd go and check with my radius gauge, and it was just never quite right. And that's when I noticed that happen. So, there's holes on the bottom of this, and so what I did was I just took a nice piece of hardwood. I think this is poplar or something. I countersunk some holes. I planed it and made sure it was, even, uniform thickness across the board. Countersunk the holes, and then, drew my center line on. Your center line is important for this, and the metal, your pencil is going to wipe right off. So one good thing about adding a board here is it makes that center line really easy to see, and it doesn't wipe off. But when I take my fretboard to this instead of the metal, I found that tilting and peeling, it went away, and it was really stable. So if you get one of these, I recommend doing something like this. And the other thing I did, and this is I'm not quite sure why Grizzly chose to do this, but as I mentioned, the machine, it says it can do between 10 and 16-inch radius. And the strange thing for me is that 7 1/4 and 9 1/2 inches are very common radius with guitars. It's pretty much all Fender did for a long time. And so it's weird to me that $1,000+ machine would not do a very common radius. Kind of a bummer. But the design of this is simple enough that we can easily modify, and that's what I did. So you see it's got this slot up and down, and that's what it comes with. And the range is from 10 inches all the way down to 16 inches all the way to the top. And you can kind of slide it up, and so you can kind of get incremental if you need. But obviously with 9 1/2, it doesn't work very well. So what I did is I just measured from the bottom of my board plus the thickness of the fretboard blanks that I use. And then came up to right at 9 1/2 on each side, marked the center line, punched it real slowly, drilled it out on the drill press, and it came out great, and that definitely makes a perfect 9 1/2. I'm probably going to also make one for 7 1/4 as well. I just haven't gotten there yet. If you saw what the Texas Toast guys they made a whole new carriage, and for every guitar they made, they drilled a very specific hole in there. So they have one for 12, one for 14, one for 9, and of course they're making tons and tons of guitars, and so it makes a lot of sense for them to have very quickly automated processes. For me, I'm not quite there yet. I'm still learning a lot of this. So, but what I found is that on top of all this, if all this machine did was radius fretboards and it did nothing else and it just sat in the corner, I don't know that I would buy it. Like I said, I think it was about $1,100 when I bought it, and if that's all it did, I don't know that. I think that there may be better options. But what I didn't realize when I got this is how important having a giant belt sander in the office is, or in the shop is, right? It's just something I didn't realize I was missing until I had one. So this is very useful. When I'm not working on fretboards, this guy just gets hung on the wall, and it stores really nicely. And then I've got a nice belt sander that I use for a lot of things. Now, one thing that I wish Grizzly had done is make this so we can still use this as the full belt sander. So this is an actual unit that they have. I think it's the Grizzly 1140 edge sander. And this right here is the fretboard attachment. And I bought this all as one unit. It came together. But they also sell this unit separately if you already have the sander. So my point is that when you buy just the edge sander, it comes with a cast iron table. And this edge sander can tilt vertically, so you can sand on the edge or you can sand flat. Well, when you mount the fretboard attachment to it, it locks that tilting mechanism. So I can't tilt this sander anymore unless I remove the fretboard unit. And that's a pain. That's not happening. That's not something you're going to regularly be removing and adding on, right? Also, if you buy it as a fretboard unit, they don't give you the cast iron table that the actual sander comes with. So it would have been nice if Grizzly had made a way to still use it with a cast iron table, seeing as it's really useful as a belt sander, and the carriage just comes off when you're not using for fretboards. So it would have been nice if they gave us a cast iron table and some way to keep the tilting mechanism. Maybe on this one, if it tilted this way instead of backwards, that might have been really cool. And maybe Grizzly in future versions, maybe that comes up. But in the meantime, I think this is a really great machine. I use it a lot. Like I said, I use it a lot for as a belt sander as well. So after I put my radiuses on, and I'll mark the profile of the fretboard, and I'll roughly cut out the profile of the fretboard on the bandsaw, and then I'll come down here and I'll just very gently just lower it down until that line goes away, and it gets flat 100% of the time. And so it's like I'm almost using it as kind of a planer joiner, but not really, just flattening that taper of that fretboard. And man, it does it really well. Also, if you just have a flat surface that you just need to quick put it on there flat, it works really well for that. And so this thing, being a specialty tool, has gotten a lot of use in my shop. And so if you're looking around for something like this, consider that. It might be for you if you already have a big edge sander and you just need a way to put radiuses on fretboards. Maybe there's another solution out there for you. But for me, this worked really well.